Nintendo Switch 2 was released on June 5th, 2025, the long-awaited successor to the massively successful Nintendo Switch, bolstering better graphics, a larger console and display, and new functions on the Joy-Cons. Released for $449.99 for the standard console and $499.99 for the Mario Kart World Bundle, and at the moment of this review, it is still at its launch price in the US. However, Nintendo has announced that on September 1st, 2026, they will be increasing their prices for just the base console from $449.99 to $499.99. Is this console worth picking up if you haven't already, or is this something you can just skip on entirely? In preparation for the new Fire Emblem game and Ocarina of Time remake, I bit the bullet and got a Nintendo Switch 2 so that we could make reviews on this channel. I know, you're gonna crucify me in the comments, I can take it. I'm Tom the Wizard Man, and this is the Fake Wizards review of the Nintendo Switch 2. If this review provides you any value at all, please like and subscribe, as we're making many reviews every single week. The Nintendo Switch 2 is the successor to the Nintendo Switch, following the design where the system is able to be used in both a handheld and TV format. The handheld is the console, with the TV being accessible through a dock that you slide the console into. The new hardware sees a genuine improvement in video quality. On the Switch 1's handheld mode, games ran at 720p, and TV output saw up to 1080p with up to 60 FPS. The Switch 2's handheld mode sees 1080p, with TV output being able to go to 4K, and some games being able to be ran at 120 FPS. The Joy-Cons don't slide into the system, but instead connect via magnets, which snap into the side and are released by a button in the back. They're larger in size, which is nicer for instances where you may only be using one Joy-Con as a remote. Part of the new added feature is that the Joy-Con can be turned on its side and used similarly to a mouse. Additionally, the right Joy-Con features a little button with a C on it that will go to the chat function tied to their game chat feature. It is present. It's a little bit unnecessary, as if you don't have game chat or NSO, it basically is just a useless button. Also, they may have changed some aspects with the Joy-Cons, but the way that they are designed is still susceptible to stick drift, which is BS. The battery life is not great. Where on the first Switch, you could go a considerable amount of time before needing to go and charge it. Playing handheld on the Switch 2 does deteriorate very quickly, where you'll likely be using that top charger slot to play if you're going to be playing on handheld. The dock carries over the two USB ports from the original design and the Ethernet port that was added on the Switch OLED's dock. However, the new dock is larger, containing a fan to help cool the system, which was not included in the Switch's original run. The Nintendo Switch 2 is a solid console. Having the ability to seamlessly go from playing a game in TV mode to handheld is an amazing design, allowing you to switch your playstyle depending on your situation. The bigger display, better graphics, and smoother gameplay is a noticeable and welcomed improvement from the Nintendo Switch. In TV mode, games like Super Smash Bros., Pokopia, and Kirby Air Riders look great. They're responsive and they pop with color. Games like Scarlet and Violet are actually playable now and become enjoyable experiences, whereas on the Switch and even Switch OLED, Scarlet and Violet were a frame rate-ridden nightmare. However, I have some issues with this console, specifically in the handheld mode. The biggest of which is that the console is not very ergonomic. This is user-dependent, as different hands hold things differently. Comparing it to the original Switch, the smaller design fit better in my hands, whereas the newer one is a little bit too big. Where the Switch 2's larger size and more curved Joy-Cons is not as comfortable to hold for longer periods of use. The lack of ergonomics is considerable, as this is something I'm probably going to have to get like a case or attachment for to hold better when I'm playing on a handheld, where with the Switch 1, I never had that issue. The second is the battery life. With the first Switch, it felt like the game you played was what indicated how fast the battery would drain. On the Switch 2, it feels like any game sucks up your battery. You'll be playing a game for 2 hours and then get hit with low battery. It's almost to the point where I don't think this really is an effective handheld console. Something that was great about the Switch 1 was that you could bring it when traveling, and if you had charged it the night before, you were set. If you have a 4-hour flight with the Switch 2, odds are you're hitting low battery before you land. And the battery is an actual issue, to the point where they're going to have to make consoles with replaceable batteries to accommodate with European guidelines, as the console's current battery does not fall under them. The Switch 2 doesn't feel like it's the next console. The jump from the Wii U to Switch felt like an advancement in technology. The Switch to the Switch 2 feels like the Pro version of the Switch, not its successor. The improvements it makes are good, but it just feels like a bigger Switch. Like this should have been called the Switch Pro or like the Super Switch or something. But I bet they didn't want to do that and have another weird naming scheme mix-up like with the Wii and the Wii U. The Nintendo Switch 2 is an upgrade to the core experiences of the Nintendo Switch, but still feels a bit lackluster. Should you get a Switch 2 if you haven't already? Well, that depends on what your situation is. If you're someone who's not a fan of the business practices and decisions by Nintendo, then I'd recommend, yeah, don't get it. If you're someone who doesn't like Nintendo or Nintendo games, definitely don't get it. If you're a Nintendo fan who is waiting until they released more games that you'd be interested in, wanted to get it before the price jumped, I'd say possibly go for it. But buying the Switch 2 right now feels like getting in preparation for games to come rather than the games available now. The exclusives available right now aren't really like, rush to get this console good. I give the Nintendo Switch 2 as a console an 8 out of 10. If this review provides you any value at all, please like and subscribe, and thank you for watching.